As Professor Ben-Sasson said, I do have the perspective of both here and that other country with the two oceans next to it. I was a student here, I was a student there, I was a teacher part-time here, and I am now a teacher there. I'm not an expert on budget. I come from a school with an enormous budget, just imaginary in Israeli terms. Before the crisis, Harvard Law School's budget, now it's gone down, but it had an endowment of $1.3 billion, Harvard Law School alone, not the university. So that's imaginary terms in imaginary budget in Israeli terms, although I'm sure that Professor Trachman has been vested with so many responsibilities today, he would probably come up with the sum by the end of the panel. So I want to say, I want to focus instead on what struck me teaching law school students here and law school students in the United States, and what I think about as a major gap in Israeli education, which doesn't exist in Europe either, but in comparison with the United States, and that is liberal arts education. Liberal arts education in terms of some basic humanities, mathematics, science, and arts as compulsory and mandatory in any research university. I'm not talking about private colleges or professional colleges. Education in Israel has become a commodity. It's instrumental. You study for the sake of gaining something from it, not for the sake of gaining knowledge per se. And oddly enough, the Latin origins of the idea of the liberal arts education was intended to separate that education which befitted the free man from the education that befitted the slave. So the slave needed vocational training, professional training. The free man could enjoy the advantages of liberal arts education. And now we're raising a community of slaves, basically, who specialize in professional training, but not in the intellectual pursuit for its own sake. The American colleges, and here I used college in the liberal arts college sense, not the private schools, are intended to provide education in the broadest sense of the word. So yes, of course, there's substantive knowledge in various spheres, but it's also a place that allows young people to engage in self-searching, in growing up in an intellectual environment, one that encourages curiosity, trying different things, tasting different things, really trying to find out who you are, and coming of age. That's why you see all these American college movies on college kids. This is the process of growing up and coming of age. So it's about curiosity, it's about developing your preferences, it's about skills, it's about the skills to acquire knowledge and to produce it. There are certain learning skills that are taught and learned in college that are very, that are lacking or absent from the professional schools. So the college offers you assistance in tailoring a program that suits your tastes and preferences and helps you, and actually forces you to take courses in different disciplines, sort of opening up opportunities and knowledge that you didn't know existed or that you weren't familiar with or you never had real exposure to, and that helps you sort of form your own opinion. In addition to that, it offers a campus life. It offers a campus life where people are engaged in a community, they learn together, they create things together, they are involved in a social community outreach, in other programs, in running journals, in being engaged in community, social, political action writ large, and that also means they become more, I think, better citizens of their society later on. At the age of college, Israeli students go to the military. And the military, in many ways, is the opposite of college. It helps you mature in very important ways, but it also keeps you stuck in other important ways. So the military is not about free choice. It's not about finding your preferences, asking hard questions. Sure, there are things that, these elite intelligence or technological units of cutting edge, high tech, etc. But it's not, for the most part, it's not an intellectual enterprise per se. It's about authority, it's about discipline, it's about obedience. And then the self-searching part takes place in the traditional post-discharge trips to India, South America, and the Far East. This is where you do the growing up or the finding who you are after you left the military. What's also interesting about the military is that it's the collective, not the individual enterprise that is at the middle. So it's about the collective enterprise of the country. And after you've spent 3 years doing military service and then the rest of your life paying taxes, the last thing you want to hear about is any other type of collective service or community service when you're grown up. When Israeli students arrive at the university, they feel that they're behind. They're behind on time, they're behind on money, they don't get paid as soldiers. So they are looking for that type of education that would provide them, that would be something they could do something with. Right? It's the degree that you could do something with. What type of degree would help me enter the employment market as quickly and as smoothly as possible? And you lose everything about the intellectual enterprise per se. The pursuit students are afraid to gamble. Who's going to learn classics or agriculture or linguistics if you don't know if you ever going to get a job in that? So you gamble on the safe, on law school, on accounting, on computers, on economics, etc. The campus is not a campus, it's a workplace from 9 to 5 at the best case scenario. Other than that, students work or engage in other enterprises but don't feel an integral part of the university. And all of that is coupled with a real sense of crisis, I think, in the humanities here in Israel, in the humanities education. The crisis in the humanities is not unique to Israel. I think it exists all over the world. But without a college system, without making some of these courses mandatory for the entire student body, it's impossible to salvage these departments. So you have 15 people registered for Hebrew literature in Jerusalem. This is the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. You have 15 students taking Hebrew literature. If you want to learn classics in Israel, you have to study in 3 or 4 different universities just to make up the degree, because there are not enough courses in any single university. So my proposal, and just to say one other word, if anybody thinks that we can be excellent universities by having excellent law schools or economic departments, you're wrong. You cannot be Ivy League, you cannot be excellent without excellent humanities or sciences or arts. You can be adequate, but not excellent. So a college system will keep the humanities going, it will keep the sciences going, it will open up opportunities, it will help students discover who they are, what they're really interested in, force them to some degree to try out different things that they're afraid to gamble on, that they're not familiar with, that are foreign to them today. Other people have said that before, I don't think it needs repeating. It makes better graduate students. People who went through college make for better graduate students. They make for better citizens. They become more informed citizens rather than ignorant. You can have a whole lot of ignorant professionals. That's not an oxymoron. They are professional in some fields, but they are ignorant in others. And you end up having an ignorant civic body of a population that doesn't ask questions, that doesn't care, that cannot be engaged in any real adequate way in public life. So my point is that if education is a value in and of itself that we do want to promote, the traditional arguments about resource constraints or military service or how will the labor market adjust need to be put aside, and we need to make this liberal arts education a priority. Thank you very much.